T-Dog, J-Boy, and me, I'm Lugs. Our pride and joy is pumping our mugs. Be careful, kids, it could get rough. We're flipping our lids on sports and other stuff.
Welcome to Sport Weasel Central. Fresh from my first NIL signing, I'm Lugs.
I'm J-Boy.
And I'm T-Dog.
Yes, sir. You know, this Canada era has really got us all worked up, but we'll talk about that in a minute as we cough it out of our lungs. But, hey, we're back and better than ever. You know, fellas, to make it to the Hall of Fame in baseball, all you have to do is bat 300, right? That's hit the ball 3 times out of 10, just 30%. Well, gents, I'll see you in Cooperstown because we're destined for the Hall of Fame with our NFL predictions last season. We might have gotten to 30% right. Here we are back, and Lugs is back, just returning from a press junket at the Psychedelic Conference with Aaron Rodgers. Lugs, how was that? How's the big man? And did you get in touch with what they might say is your inner self?
My inner child? Well, I had to spank it. But anyway, yeah, our boy, he's pushing it. I got to give it to a man who's 40. He's still acting like he's on the Ken Kesey bus from the 60s, you know, doing the psychedelics. But, hey, it could work for him in New York City. We'll just have to see.
T-Dog, you think he's got a chance?
Oh, yeah. Once we get into predictions, you know, I think he's got a chance. I think a lot of things are going to have to really go their way for them to have a chance. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, they could be 4-0 or 0-4 at the start. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, they're starting the season. That's a strong little schedule they got to face up to.
Yeah.
And it's all going to pretty much be on TV primetime. They are getting their money's worth out of Rodgers as far as that, the TV primetime. Well, the three of us, of course, will watch, but a lot of people who probably don't normally watch NFL will tune in just because of all the hoopla.
Now, T-Dog, you know, we're just getting back after being away on a little hiatus, vacation times and family involvements and other things. You had a thought about this Canadian air that we're breathing today, which is a little heavy with, I guess, smoke. What was your thought on that?
My thought was, you know, has this affected sales of Canada Dry? You know, I just worry, you know, obviously it's a ginger ale, but just in the branding, you know, you know, it's this, you know, obviously the smoke coming from Canada, will there be a backlash? I mean, I can't lose a ginger ale. That's all I have to say. Luckily, we live in an area where Ale 8 is, so I think we're going to be fine. But I just worry about other parts of the country where there's not like a, you know, a half decent, like Seagram's. You know, you be down. Then you just be down to Seagram's, and I like Seagram's, but then all of a sudden Seagram's will just jack their rates if they don't have Canada Dry to keep their you know, their prices down low. So that's what I'm worried about. These are the things I worry about at night.
Drink Canada Dry.
Well, but
yeah.
Sorry, man, I stepped on you twice there.
Yeah,
I was just going to say.
It didn't even hurt, so I'm good.
Maybe they can take advantage of all this smoke and smoke up some of that Canadian bacon. Could that be a possibility? You know what I'm saying.
You know what? Take lemons, make lemonade. I like it.
Well, Lugs, I was going to mention, so I was in North Carolina for a bit, and home of, you know, Andy of Mayberry. Well, we know fictitiously, but there was a character in that show called Otis the Drunk, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And he saw that sign in Canada that said, "Drink Canada Dry."
Oh.
All right, man, we got to get on with this or people are really not going to tune in, and not like they are already. Let's get started with this AFC East situation. Lugs or T-Dog, who wants to start on this? This is getting fascinating. It's late June, and we're looking at...
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, we're looking at the NFL starts in, what, about 2 months?
Yep.
Give or take? Give or take.
That's why I feel we got to get on.
Got to get on it.
Predictions. We got to get on it.
Let's go.
So you I'll ask Lugs. You want to start with who we think wins and then work our way down? Is that how you want to do it?
Oh, I was going to say let's go from bottom up, but
Bottom
we can
up?
go
No, let's do bottom up. We'll do bottom up. So I'll start at the bottom. Now, I hate to say this, guys. Bottom for me is the Patriots. I have the Patriots at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
Their strength, I mean, they have some great linebackers. It's weird to start off with the team's strength as linebackers, but they were one of the best teams in terms of sacks last year. They had 54 sacks. 35 of them were accounted by their linebackers. Matthew Judon and Josh Uche accounted for 27 of those 35. They both together also had 23 tackles for loss. And then Juwan Bentley, interior linebacker, he led the team in tackles with 125, and he also contributed 3 sacks. Overall, I think their roster is better than last year, but still they have a weakness at receiver. Juju Smith-Schuster hasn't had a 1,000-yard season since 2018. He played well for Kansas City last year, but he's playing with the best quarterback in the league, and he couldn't hit 1,000 yards, which is kind of troubling. Devontae Parker, obviously he's very talented, but he has yet to play a full season after being in the league for 8 years. And they drafted Tyquan Thornton fairly high last year. He's been a disappointment last year, but to be fair, pretty much everyone on the offense except for Ramondre Stevenson was. So it's not really a knock completely on Tyquan Thornton. I have their record being 8-9. They are the bottom of this division. This will be the last thing I'll say before tossing it to Lugs. This team's just very odd. It doesn't feel like Belichick likes Mac Jones. It feels like Kraft is kind of waffling on Belichick. Bill O'Brien should make the offense competent, but when you really look at it, outside of Ramondre Stevens, there's not a great playmaker on that offense. And like last year, the other 3 teams in the division, they're more talented. So, Lugs?
Yeah, okay. 8-9 on the Patriots. How about you, Lugs? What do you like? Number 4.
Like about the Patriots,
Yeah.
I guess the only positive move for me that I've seen is Bill O'Brien, but I don't think he can salvage anything for Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones, I'm pretty sure that they're going to move him out. He's not going to get any more major contracts. He'll be a backup, he would be a perfect backup in San Francisco or a similar team. He's competent, but that's about it. He's about, say, that much better than Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold will probably start for San Francisco when the season opens up. I've got them. I'm even less positive about them. I'm going 7-10. I just don't. If you look at their schedule, I just don't think they have any offensive firepower, and I don't care. It's an offensive league now. I don't care how good your defense is. If you don't score points nowadays, you're done. And I don't see how they can score any points. So 7-10 is what I'm calling.
All right. I'm going to match you on that 7-10, and here is why. Belichick, it might be time. Number 1. Number 2, he's average since Brady left. Let's just say it. I mean, he really is. And number 3, they just don't have much. Bill O'Brien, good, but I don't think there's enough there to make a team, and certainly no longer a cakewalk for these boys. Plus, the wise guys in Las Vegas have them at 8-9, an average team. So I'm going 7-10 because they got a tough division, and they'll lose a lot of games in division. Next, T-Dog.
Next, I have, one of our favorite players, that week, those 3 weeks off, it hurt us from our mental issues with Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, sir.
We didn't get to talk about him, but
I know.
guess what? We're going to talk about him now. New York Jets, I have them coming in 3rd in this division. Their strength is actually on the opposite side of the ball, like the New England Patriots. This division overall, I mean, once we get to the end of it, great defenses. Actually, all 4 of the teams have good to great defenses, I think. But the strength of the New York Jets are the defensive line. Quinn Williams, he had his breakout season last year. He's now one of the best interior pass rushers, not named Aaron Donald or Chris Jones. They added Carl Lawson, who's coming off an injury last year. I believe he had 7 sacks. He's a great rusher who can crush the pocket. And then John Franklin Myers is just a big guy who occasionally gets some sacks, but he mainly eats up space. And they have some young players, a rookie last year, Jermaine Johnson, and the rookie this year they took in the first round, Will McDonald. They'll provide some depth with their speed and bend. But kind of like last year, too, it's kind of weird. Both the Patriots and Jets have some of the similar problems they had from the year before to this year. Their offensive line, they have a lot of players returning from injury or are always in the infirmary. Mekhi Becton, Louisville's own, he's played 1 game in 2 years. Dwayne Brown is 37 years old, and he was dealing with torn rotator cuff last year. He'll be coming back possibly. And their rookie last year, Vera Tucker, he looked like a star, their right guard, but he tore his tricep, so he's coming back from an injury. That's a lot of guys. That's a lot of big ifs for a guy protecting a 39-year-old quarterback who, you know, as great as Aaron Rodgers was, I got to give credit to the organization of Green Bay, too. They always usually put up a good offensive line around him, too. I have them going 9-8. I think Rodgers will make the team better than last year, but I just think the division as a whole is better, too. So the defense is the strength, and they'll keep them in games. And if they really want a shot at the playoffs, their rookie phenom, who's probably going to be the offensive rookie of the year if he didn't get injured, Breece Hall has to be 100% coming into week 1, the Iowa State running back, to give them a shot at winning that division. I just look at the protection, and it's shaky. And if you really look at their wide receivers, outside of Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis, I don't like them. It's a bunch of Aaron Rodgers, yes guys. And I understand why Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas made this move for Aaron Rodgers, because they were under the microscope.
Sure.
They were probably on the way out. I just feel, unfortunately for those guys, I don't think it matters. So, they're not making the playoffs, I don't think.
9-8 Jets. Lugs, who do you like in the 3rd spot in the AFC East?
Well, I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I like Mike McDaniel. He's a real fine coach. And I don't want to put a jinx on Tua. I don't. But I just don't think he's going to last. I think he will get injured. And after that, I mean, they've got an amazing core of receivers. They've got really good to decent running backs. They should be okay on defense, I guess. They've got a lot of sort of, game changers on defense. Their corners are real good. But I think that's where I got them at this point.
And what record do you see them?
9-8.
9-8 on the old Dolphinos in 3rd spot. I'm going to match Lugs and say, T-Dog and say Jets in 3rd place. But I'm not going to be as generous. I'm saying they're tied maybe, 8-9 is what I got them at. And here's why. It all rests on the shoulders of Mr. Aaron Rodgers. And here's the problem. Unforeseen. It's a wild card. They just installed new artificial turf in MetLife Stadium.
Ooh.
And so now 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers is not on the nice grass that they put heat lamps on and, do all that fluffy cheese stuff in Wisconsin. He's on the old plastic carpet. And, planting that leg, getting tackled, sacked, we've seen it way too many times, especially lately. And, there's a move by the Players Association to get rid of field turf and artificial surface eventually. So I don't know. I'm not feeling it for him. So I'm going to put them in there, like I said, at 8-9, the Jets. T-Dog, number 2. Second
Number 2,
place.
before I get to it, I just want to say that's a nice little nugget there, Jay boy. I did not know about the field turf. That is actually a point that might be bigger down the road than most people are giving it.
And do they have 9 or 8 home games? Do you know? I don't think I know that this year.
I don't know.
Yeah, but
off the
either
top of my
way,
head.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot
Yeah.
on the old legs and knees.
Yeah. Well, I know Lugs, it feels like maybe he believes in Aaron Rodgers more than us, but I'm going with the Dolphins at 2.
Woohoo!
They coming off of a playoff run last year where if Tua didn't get injured last year, which is a big if, I'm going to give that to Lugs. It's a big if. They would have had a better record. They would have won 11 games or 10. Their strength, it's easy to see, is wide receiver. Tyreek Hill had over 1,700 yards last year receiving. Jalen Waddle had 1,300. Combined, they had more receiving yards than 5 teams last year in the NFL. Combined, they had more receiving touchdowns than 2 teams, or equal to one of those teams last year in the NFL. And then, as you know, just as backup, Cedric Wilson is a talented wide receiver they got from Dallas, who didn't even really get to play because those guys were just so prolific. And a guy they got in the offseason, Robbie Anderson, you might not notice him because he changed his name to Chosen Anderson. Gives them another speedy wide receiver. So there you go. They got 3 speedy guys now. Their weakness, though, is the offensive line. Teron Armstead played great, but he still missed 4 games, which has been the problem with him. Is he always misses some games. Their left guard, Liam Eichenberg, has been a disappointment from Notre Dame these last few seasons. And Austin Jackson, he had some moments 2 years prior, but he was a loss for the year 2022, so he needs to bounce back. And again, this ties back to Tua. With that offensive line woes, you're worried about Tua. With that said, they did get Mike White, who I think is an upgrade over what Teddy Bridgewater was last year. So I think he'll fill in and be able to win some games if Tua misses. I have them being 2 games better than last year. They're 11-5. They make the wild card. And the big note I want to make, probably the biggest acquisition they had in this offseason, is J-Boy and my favorite, Vic Fangio.
Yes, sir.
The hiring of that man with that talent on defense, they will be the best defense in division, in a division full of great defenses. Jalen Phillips, their outside linebacker, he's set to be a superstar this year in this scheme. And their corners, Howard and Ramsey, are a little bit long in the tooth, but I still think they got some juice. But it really does come down to Tua staying healthy. If he is able to stay healthy, they have a shot at being a Super Bowl team. I honestly think that with the coaching of Mike McDaniels and the coaching of Vic Fangio, and they are loaded with talent pretty much everywhere. Like I said, they have their weaknesses. Just the guys are injury prone for the most part on their offensive line. I think they're keeping an eye on the draft next year for a quarterback. I will agree with Lugs on that, but there's also just they might even be more explosive out of the backfield with Mostert, Wilson, and Devon A-Chain, who they got in the draft, than the wide receivers. This team would kill any other team in the league in a track meet. So I'm really excited for this team. I am also worried about it because of Tua. I know he took judo to learn how to fall. I don't think that's completely – I'm asking you all, do you think that really is going to help a lot or no?
No.
0, 0, less than no. Nope.
I mean, there is no comfortable way to fall on concrete. And that's what we're talking about for most of these stadiums.
So T-Dog's got the Dolphins at 11-5, making the playoffs in the 2 spot. So, Lugs, I'm going to turn to you, but first, I think we need to change the theme song. He's T-Dog, I'm J-Boy, and me, I'm Chosen. You should be Chosen and not Lugs. We'll call you Chosen Lugs moving forward. Who do you like in the 2 spot? You're going to throw us off here, I think, in the AFC East for the 2023-24 season.
I'm going with the Jets. I think their defense is still amazing. They may not have quite the year this year that they had last year, but you got Gardner, who's a rookie. I mean, as a corner, he was one of the best in the league. And you know, they 6 of their losses last year were one-score games. One-score games, and think about all the craziness at quarterback that they had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it was like, okay, Mike White, Jim Black, Charlie Brown.
What the heck,
I mean,
man?
you know, they were picking quarterbacks by colors. So anyway, I've got the Jets. Hey, I'm going to go with 11-6 with the Jets.
Oh,
Draymond Green, right? T-Dog, we got to back up, man. You had the Dolphins at 11-5.
you're right.
Change
They
that
do-
up.
Yeah, 11-6.
Whoa, he didn't give him the 12. He gave him the 6. All right,
Yeah.
I'm going to pick the Dolphins at the second spot. This is a rough division. Lots of losses from within the division. I'm saying 10-7 for the Dolphinos, and I'm also saying it's a Tua game. It's a Tua. If he gets hurt again, and man, let's say a good word to the good Lord upstairs. This guy's in trouble, guys. If he has another bad round of those hits, as Lugs would say, on the concrete, or even on the regular turf, I don't care. Jiu-jitsu, judo, Lugs, those Judy Chops. Who was that Judy Chop guy? Judy Chop.
Yeah, that was West Virginia Ninja. I love that guy. Judy Chop.
Well, whatever he took up, maybe he went to West Virginia, not that far, get on I-64, get off exit 172. Maybe he did. But either way, I don't think, I just think it's a tricky spot, and I don't think they can beat the Bills. And so I got them at 10-7 in the second place. So, T-Dog, I think we know where you're going. I think we know who your one pick is in the AFC East, but enlighten us, please.
It's upstate New York. It's the
Yes,
Buffalo
sir.
Bills. Yeah, I know this is going to surprise you. I believe it was their strength last year. It's their strength this year. It'll be their strength for at least probably the next 7 to 8 years. They have a top 3 quarterback. If you want to say higher than that, I understand. Josh Allen. I mean, for the second consecutive year, he threw for over 4,000 yards. He ran for over 700 yards. And he had over 40 touchdowns. He hasn't even hit his prime. He's 27 years old, and he was a little up and down last year, but he injured his elbow. He played through it, and that he got in early November. And I think it did his impact this season. If you go back and look at early in that season, he looked like he was going to win MVP. I mean, he was on fire early in that year. And the craziest thing is the weakness. I'm going to say this team's linebacker, and one of their linebackers, Matt Milano, was an All-Pro last year. It really comes down to just one position on the whole team, I think. A.J. Klein is penciled in to be the starter alongside Matt Milano. He was on 3 teams last year, and he had 35 tackles. So I think you're worried about that position across from Matt Milano. But really, if you look at the rest of the team, I think they're pretty golden. Their record's 12-5. The only reason they have so many losses is they are in the AFC East, one of the toughest divisions. They're in the AFC Conference, the toughest conference of the two. I also find them to be maybe one of the more fascinating teams in the NFL, just because offensively and defensively, I think they can be very dramatic than last year, even though they were one of the top teams. The drafting of the tight end, Dalton Kincaid, and the addition of Damian Williams, the running back, I think indicates they're going to be more balanced on offense. And I think they're going to use Kincaid as a slot receiver. And obviously they'll keep Dawson Knox on the field. So they can really reveal the intentions of defenses, because they can put him in line. And if they put him in line, that'll indicate too, like the coverage and whatnot. And I just think, even if he's not a great blocker, he's a big enough guy. Like if he just gets in the way of a corner, he can really open up running lanes for Josh Allen or the running back. And then when you look at their defense, Leslie Frazier, their longtime DC, he stepped away this year. And if you look at his background, Leslie Frazier's background is from that Tampa 2 or cover 3, elements of cover 3 in it. And McDermott cut his teeth with Jim Johnson in Philly, who was all about pressuring protections and being more aggressive. So it's going from, I think, a reactive defense to a defense that I think will be more attacking than it has been in the last few years. So that's why, like I said, like not only one of the better teams in the NFL, I think they're one of the more interesting teams because I think personality-wise, they're going to have a bigger shift than some of these other top teams.
And you said 12-5?
12-5. I actually got the number of games right for this team.
Let's go back to the 14-game season for just a change. All right, so that's pretty straightforward. Lugs, how do you like the Bills?
Well, I mean, obviously Josh Allen is the man. They did lose Tremaine Edmonds, their star linebacker, to the Bears. I agree, and they also, I guess, Von Miller will be back, so they have people on defense. Somehow to me, they seem stale on offense for me. They don't. Josh Allen has a major arm. He's, a Mack truck when he takes off running, but I don't see them. Stephon Diggs, it's one of those things where I think they needed an offensive coordinator like Bill O'Brien. If you had Bill O'Brien with this group of people, he would up their ante a lot. So, but I got him finishing top of the heap like everybody else, and I'm going 11-6.
Okay. Tight, 11-6. All right, I'm going to agree with both of you. Obviously, we don't have any more teams left in the division. And over the past 4 years, I'm a big McDermott fan, I think. Wasn't at first kind of growing on me. Here's their record or their wins last 4 seasons: 10, 13, 11, and 13 games. That's pretty hard to beat. I know it's a very tough division. Rodgers will make it even more tough, perhaps, but I'm not banking on him being maybe as fruitful as he might think he wants to be. As long as he keeps drinking that ayahuasca. How do you pronounce that stuff? Ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca.
Yeah, whatever. And it gets psychedelically, Did you read some of that stuff, by the way? Wow.
No, I try to avoid it.
Well, anyway, let's get back to the Bills for a sec. I got him going. I'm going to give him a 13 winner there. I'm going 13 and what would that be, T-Dog?
13 and 4. Yeah.
To get that 17-game season. I think they're going to have a breakout year. I think Allen really is just coming into his prime, and I think has a really good shot to make even bigger steps than before because he's smarter, wiser, and a stronger guy. So I like him a lot.
Yeah, I think, like I said, we could talk about it, I guess, at the end, but this is definitely one of the top 3, possibly the top division, just in terms of like storylines and just how fascinating it is in terms of just the personalities and how good all these teams should be. Their records won't indicate it, but they're all, I think, fairly talented, and they should all be enjoyable to watch for the most part.
Yeah, without question.
Yeah.
Lugs, any other thoughts on the AFC East and the Aaron Rodgers Bowl?
It will be interesting to see how he survives the New York press if indeed going off the top they lose 3 or 4 of those games. But again, they still have to find a number 1 receiver. They really do. I don't know if it's going to be DeAndre Hopkins, whoever it's going to be. But if he has a number 1, or I was thinking, let's get the band back together, bring Randall Cobb back. They've got Lazard already.
Actually, Lugs, you don't know this. They have Randall Cobb.
They do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting the band back together.
Yeah. To be fair to your point, Mercedes Lewis is still hanging out there. He's like, come on, man. Lazard and Randall Cobb are there, but you don't got my back.
I can play bass, man. Come on. I can play bass guitar. Come on. Let me in the club there, dog.
Well, all he needs is 2 guys to boil up the water for that tea.
Yeah.
So, one to boil it and one to carry the cup.
It's a two-man process, what I read. Yeah. So I was reading about that, and this is kind of what he said at that conference. He was on some dais with some host, and maybe you guys know who he was. I don't. And he said basically when you experience the psychedelic and you experience with others in your team, when you get in the huddle, you look at the man and say, that's my brother over there. I mean, seriously? Are we
Yeah.
really there? And this is how we're going to, so we're on a mind meld in a huddle at an NFL game at MetLife Stadium?
Yeah. No.
I don't
No.
know. I can't buy it. I can't do it. I can't think about that.
Well, I'll say this about that whole
Let me say this about that.
phenomena. I saw Machine Gun Kelly.
What?
Yes. I saw Machine Gun Kelly on one of the talk shows. And he was saying he and his girlfriend, who is famous, but I don't know who she is because she's a baby to me.
Not famous to
But
you?
She ain't famous to me, so I guess, you know. Anyway, he was saying he had a good time with the psychedelics, with the shaman, you know, but his girlfriend, it was all bad for her, so they had to leave or something weird. You know, it was like, okay, you're talking to these guys that live in the woods down there in South America someplace. You know, hell, I can be a shaman. I'm the Kentucky shaman. You know what I mean? It's like I'm going to put out a shingle, whatever. I could be the Alabama shaman. Whatever you need, I'm there for you. So anyway, it's just crazy. It's crazy.
Thank you,
But
Mr.
it's
Know-it-all.
entertaining.
Gotcha.
And it gives us something to talk about.
Yeah. Amen to that. All right. So that's that. Yeah. T-Dog, what about that?
I was gonna say, talking about something to talk about, like going back, spinning the world back
Dun, dun, dun,
backwards
dun,
like
dun.
Superman.
Yeah.
Going back a year, looking at our predictions, doing an autopsy on it. And this is where we get to pat ourselves on the back because in the weeks to come, we're not going to have this ability to do
Luxury.
so. We got the order right, guys. We said the Bills were going to be number 1, Dolphins were going to be number 2.
Wow.
Pats are going to be 3, and the Jets are 4th. We actually got this division right. We all liked Mike McDaniels. He ended up being having the 6th overall offense in yards and 11th in points. We all were astounded by Matt Patricia being named. He was never named the OC, but essentially was the OC. But I mean, to be fair, everyone saw that coming. And to be fair to Lugs, he said Mac would stink, and he did. So, and the one I got to give credit to again, I'll keep patting Lugs on the back. He said that Joe Flacco was the best quarterback on the Jets, and I tutted him and said, nah, I believe in Zach Wilson. I was wrong. And I thought Zach Wilson would get better, and I was wrong. He got worse. So much so that he was benched for Mike White, who was essentially a journeyman. That being said, I believe I said the Bills would go 13-4. They went 13-3.
Nice.
I said the Fins would go 10-7. They went 9-8.
Nice.
I said the Pats would go 8-9. That's what they went. And I said the Jets would go 7-10, and that's what they went.
Winner, chicken dinner. Yes, sir.
That being said,
So
yes.
did you cash a ticket at all in Vegas? I mean, come on, with that kind of predictive capability.
Lugs, like I said, I'm patting myself on the back because in the weeks to come, it's going to be eating a lot of crow, a steady diet of crow. So I'm just living in that moment in the sun while I can and, enjoying it.
He didn't pass go. He didn't cash any winning tickets at the betting window, sadly. But, well,
Yeah.
that's good. We kind of know what we're talking about. So we're going to mark the tape right there, and this will become a promo for next year's episode. God willing, and the creek don't rise. And
Definitely AFC South predictions will not be a part of our promo. We'll say that.
that's the more 30% that I was talking about at the top of the show. Okay, hey, Lugs, do you have any sports of yesteryear this week?
Yes, we do. We can crank something
right.
up here.
And I have a little open here, so stand by. Here we go. There he is with sports of yesteryear. Our man Lugs. Come on in here, Lugsy.
All right, 1907, Major League Baseball's Nationals steal a record 13 bases off catcher Branch Rickey. Rickey was a so-so player, but is remembered as the GM who broke the color line in professional baseball when he hired Jackie Robinson in 1947. 1939, Joe Louis beats another one of the bums of the month, Tony Galento, TKO, at 229 in the fourth round. It was his seventh title defense. 1953, U.S. Open women's golf at Rochester. Betsy Rawls wins an 18-hole Sunday playoff by 6 strokes over runner-up Jackie Pung. 1973, Black Sports Hall of Fame forms. Paul Robeson, Elgin Baylor, Jesse Owens, Jim Brown, Wilma Rudolph, Joe Louis, and Althea Gibson are enshrined in the first class. And finally, 2012 NBA draft. Kentucky center Anthony Davis, the Brow, is the first pick by the New Orleans Pelicans. Davis was later traded to the Los Angeles Lakers and plays about 30 games a year for about $30 million a year.
Wow.
So good on Anthony Davis. That's it for sports of yesteryear.
All right, thank you, Lux. Okay, so what? Anthony Davis only plays 30 games, makes 30 mil.
That's a slight exaggeration, but he has never played more. Now, it's an 82 game regular season. He's never played more than 45 regular season games.
So he's already been in the league since 2012?
Yeah.
Wow. He's older than I thought. All right, I got one more I want to ask you about. Jesse, was it Pong like the game?
Jackie Pung. But she could play some serious Pong, I'm sure.
I'm sure she could. Yes, sir. Jackie Pung. Okay, no pung intended. All right, T-Dog, what else do we have on the big broadcast tonight? 34 past the hour. A balmy 92 degrees at the airport under mostly smoky skies. Go ahead.
We could get out of here relatively quickly, but I just felt since it was last week, any takeaways from the NBA draft for you all?
Well, I'm curious, as most people are, to see Victor Wembanyama play. I mean, the hype is off the scale. I saw a picture of him standing with David Robinson, who is like a 7'1" guy, and David Robinson looked small, you know. And Wembanyama is, I'll say, spindly at 7'5" or 7 whatever he is, because the Admiral has some muscle.
Yeah.
But they'll put muscle on Wembanyama, and you know, I just wonder how he's going to take to Popovich, because Popovich he's 75 years old, angry about it, and lets everybody know it every minute of every day. He's not one of those touchy-feely, hey, Victor, how are you doing? He's going to be saying, get your ass over here. You know, that kind of stuff. So I just wonder how that's going to work out.
He's angry about being 75 or just angry? What did you mean by that? I wasn't
just
sure.
Angry.
Oh, okay.
He's just angry. But I'm sure he's angry about being 75, too. You know what I mean?
Maybe he's just into. Oh, you go.
No, I was going to say about Victor. The odds are terribly against that young man. If you do some stats about guys over 7'4" and having a successful. Who was the big kid out of Utah? Was 7'6". Was speaking of spindles.
Sean Bradley.
Sean Bradley. I mean, and plus.
Well, to go way back, Sam Bowie.
Yeah, true.
He lasted all of 20 minutes in the pros.
There's that exaggeration again. 20 minutes.
Well, to be fair, the interesting thing about Sam Bowie is he knew he was physically shot before he was drafted. Like, you know, luckily for him, he was able to keep it under wraps, and he got drafted by Portland. And, you know, then he was already kind of injured going into it. I could be wrong on this. I'm pretty sure I'm right. I'm with J-Boy, though. I mean, hey, if you know what, we got to be equal anxious or worrisome. If we're going to worry about Bryce Young and how small he is, we got to worry about Victor Wembanyama and how big he is. To be fair to J-Boy's point, a guy who's 7'4", like the track record's not great because it feels like you want to hit, if you're going to hit high, you want to hit 7'1" at that. And then even then you're like, it's like Anthony Davis. You worry if you're even going to play 60 games or a season. And to be fair to Lux's point, I didn't really think about it, but he is right because Wembanyama is from a different time. because the reason Popovich worked so well was you look at Tim Duncan's temperament, and he was so steady. I mean, I don't know if that guy's heartbeat ever. He's gonna like. It feels like Tim Duncan's probably gonna live to be 125 years
Yeah.
old, right? Because he just feels like he's just
Kind of like
always-
Kareem, right?
Yeah, where Wembanyama, like this is a very intense man who obviously is an excellent coach, but I don't know how a guy this generation with a guy of that generation how it'll work. I didn't really think about it, but you do bring up a good point.
How old is Victor? 19? 20?
I think he's 20.
Okay, so here's the other thing I worry about. Lugs, I'll step into your role as street doctor. Joints, man, knees, ankles. I think at best he'll have a
Well-
career like Bill Walton, very promising, lots of natural gifts, but a lot of injuries, and he'll have some shining moments, and maybe he has 2 or 3, stellar MVP seasons, but I think it'll be
Now,
really,
you
really,
and
really
I
tough.
had a conversation. I've told you, tall people don't live that long. Short people like us, we live a long
Yes!
time.
Yes, sir. All right. I love it. I knew there was a gift
That's
to this
your
show.
street doctor
I
observation.
knew
for
there was
this
a reason I
segment.
tuned in tonight. I knew there was a reason.
No, I just when you're facing, well, just in that division, he's going to be facing some really tough older centers who can bang him around. They've got to put muscle on him. They really do. I mean, those guys, they don't care that he's, the next whatever, Wilt Chamberlain, whatever he's supposed to be. They're there to make him look bad and to make themselves look good, and they're gonna go after him. I mean, our boy Joker there in Denver, he can't wait. He can't wait. I want to meet some of that little Frenchman. That's gonna be fun.
He said that with a French accent. That's funny. I did not know he knew more than one language, but maybe Joker does.
Just so we don't come off completely as Debbie Downers, I will say from the clips I've seen, he's obviously, for his height, absolutely amazing as a dribbler. Obviously, with his height, he's always going to get his shot off, and because of his natural athleticism with that height, he's always going to stress teams with his spacing, with just on the floor with his size. So he's definitely going to be intriguing. Like Bryce Young, I worry about him, but I'm rooting for him to make me eat crow. But I do worry.
Going back to the NFL for a moment here, when you mentioned Bryce Young, Rookie of the Year, who do you think? Quarterback, Rookie of the Year.
Oh, just quarterback. I'm glad you just went quarterback because I was like, I don't know if I want to say. Do you want to go first? It sounds like you have an answer. It'll give me a moment.
Well, I just looked at the
odds.
Where people are. I think our boy Anthony, and I just lost his
Anthony
last
Richardson.
name.
Richardson, yeah.
I think in that division, plus with the offensive-minded coach, and
Shane Steichen.
I think he's the guy. I don't give C.J. Stroud a whole lot of hope down there in Texas, and Bryce maybe, but I was just thinking.
I will say this. I will stick by my guns. I think the person who I feel most confident will have a good career is C.J. Stroud. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I will agree with you on this, though, Luggs. With Jonathan Taylor, if he's right, they still have, obviously they underperform on their offensive line, but they have some intriguing pieces on offense. Shane Steichen showed with Jalen Hurts he can work with a mobile quarterback, and supposedly he was very instrumental in them drafting Anthony Richardson. So, and just thinking about in the backfield, him doing an RPO to Jonathan Taylor, who just 2 years ago led the league in rushing, and at 230 plus pounds runs a 4.4. And obviously Anthony Richardson's around that weight and also runs that speed. What that is going to do to defenses for a year is going to be absolutely terrifying. they're maybe going to top out at winning 6 or 7 games, but they are going to be one of the most exciting 6-win teams maybe in the history of the NFL. That's a little strong, but you know what I'm saying. They're going to be fun to watch, even though they're not going to be good next year.
That was the first name that came into my mind was Anthony Richardson, Lugs, when you said it, because I agree with you. I think with Jonathan Taylor there, gives them an option. With other tools, they got some options, little diversion, little run-pass option. I don't know. He's under the radar, not expected to do much. Let's see what happens.
And his strength is as a thrower is throwing downfield. So Alex Pierce, I mean, he was a rookie last year from Cincinnati. He can go up and get it. Pittman's more of a short to intermediate guy, but he's got big size. So even if his ball placement, maybe year one isn't the greatest, Pittman's a big enough guy. Like he has a larger catch radius. And Downs, who's from UNC, like he's not a big guy, but he is more of a intermediate to deep type of receiver. At least that's what he was at UNC. Not to say he can't do more than that, but that's how he was mainly utilized at UNC. So, no, they have a lot of intriguing pieces around him. And I don't think that's why I went from being fearful early on to kind of embracing Anthony Richardson. I'm not going to say there's not going to be egg on, I guess, all of our faces the way we feel about him. But, I agree with you, Lugs. Of the guys who are rookies to possibly win the MVP, Anthony Richardson should be the favorite.
All right, one more note before we go, fellas. R.I.P. Ryan Mallett. Strange story. Man drowns, I guess due to a riptide, if I read it right, down in Florida. So a life cut short. We all remember him as a pretty high draft pick and a backup QB and had some shining moments. And anything else about him that I'm forgetting?
If you all remember, he was at, I believe he started his collegiate career at Michigan.
Yeah.
And then he transferred to Arkansas under Bobby Petrino. And it's probably, some of the highest points that Arkansas had for a while. So, he was important in getting a little luster back on Arkansas during his period of time. He was a fairly good college player. He was drafted by the Patriots. Obviously Tom Brady was the best quarterback of his generation, so he didn't get to play a whole lot in the NFL. So that's not really his fault. Rest in peace to him. It's unfortunate that it happened. It's sad that it feels like, this goes back to why am I blanking on the quarterback from Ohio State who was with Pittsburgh 2 years ago? Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah. Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah.
He died trying to cross, I believe, the freeway.
Yeah.
Am I remembering?
Yeah.
It's just sad. I mean, it's sad when anyone dies, but it always seems to hit harder when it's just someone so young who, never really got to really live at all. So just RIP to the Mallett family and his friends. So.
Amen. Well, that will bring to a close this edition of Sports and Other Stuff. We're brought to you in part by Austin Chiropractic. Remember those 5 most dangerous words? Maybe it will go away. If you had a weak back for about a week back, stop in and see our guy. He's there tonight. His name is
Fish.
Yay.
Because this week marks the birth of famed funny man Mel Brooks, Fish is hosting a Brooksathon for the man who did much more than have NFL great Alex Karras sucker punch a horse in the Brooks movie Blazing Saddles. This Saturday at 1 p.m., Fish will host a male trivia contest. For instance, did you know that Brooks mugged a young Howard Morris when Morris joined the writing staff of our show of shows? Howard would go on to become the legendary Ernest T. Bass on the Andy Griffith Show. This anecdote from Reverend Clay Calloway's Andy Griffith Show Bible. To enjoy more of Brooks Trivia, come on down this Saturday at 1 p.m.
All right, we are the Sport Weasels. Thanks to Fish and Lugs and T-Dog too. First in sound, first in service, first in other stuff. So long till next time. Bye-bye.